Hey, what's up, everybody? Another instructional video here with roof framing. This time we are cutting rafters. That's right. Last couple videos I was showing you different ways to lay out rafters. Now we're actually going to cut them into their shapes with their plumb cut, their bird's mouth, and their tail cuts. We'll review the process of laying out the rafter, taking a blank board, as you see here, and turning it into this. We're going to talk about the tools that you need, the approaches that you should take so you have a nice clean bird's mouth cut or seat cut. Your plumb cuts are in the correct places. Just the whole process so that um, the first time you cut this, it's going to be pretty close to what you need. Remember, as I said in other videos, you're going to have to make some adjustments, and we'll see if we have to there. So what I'm going to do is get this one cut and I get it laid out and cut, and then I have a little mock-up of a double top plate and a ridge board and the post to support the ridge board to see how it's going to fit. So if I did everything right, it should fit in there with minimal adjustment. All right, without further ado, let's get started. So what you're going to need, you're going to need uh, with this, I'm going to be doing the rafter table method. So you're going to need your book or the app. But the book, again, this book is awesome. It's going to tell us exactly what we need based on our slope and our span. So, rafter book, tape measure, pencil, speed square. Got a slightly bigger one to show you guys exactly some of the things I'm doing. I will also show you up close a neat little trick when it comes to making the seat cuts. Got a little clarification on since the last video. It's going to work out all right. You will also need a circular saw and a jigsaw, a sawzall, or a handsaw for the notch for the bird's mouth. It'll be up to you what you want to use. So um, let's get started here. Before you do any type of layout, you always want to crown the rafter. What I mean by crown the rafter is you look down the edge of this rafter, and if the rafter has a significant rise and then fall, that's the crown side. If you look down this rafter and it dips and then rises, so basically, if it comes down this way and back up, it's never going to be that severe. If it is that severe, chuck that piece of wood. But it might be a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch off. So if it dips down here in the middle, that you're going to want to be your bottom side. Because if it does come down this way here and it has some type of a dip like this, and you put the roof sheathing on, and let's say there's a big snow load, all that weight could cause this thing to dip farther and potentially break. So you always want to make sure that your crowns, it rises and falls, and then you put an X, or some people will actually draw a little crown or a C. Depends on what your crew is doing. But you want crowns to the sky, always crowns to the sky. Okay, so first thing is crown your board. And to do that, you let one end of the board stay down, and then you get back and you look down one corner of your board. We talked about this in the wall framing as well. So same thing, only this time here, this is going to be a diagonal board, but you want your crowns going up instead of picking a direction, whether they're in the wall or out the wall. So you look down this way, and you're going to see, does this rise and fall? Does it dip and rise? Also, when you're doing this, you can see if the board bows really bad. If it bows really bad, maybe you want to save that board for something else instead of your rafter. Maybe you can use it as blocking between your rafters. There's numerous ways you can do, use a board that's bowed real bad. So this is my crown. So crown's up. Now, next on this process is identifying your slope and your span. That information is found on your blueprints. My particular information that I'm using for this rafter, I have a 5-foot span. So this would be like a dormer on the side of a roof. Like to give you a little bit of extra space. I'll think about a 5-foot wide stretch of walls there. So a dormer, 5 feet wide, and it is on an 8-12 slope. So it's going to be, it's going to be significant. And it's going to have a decent slope to it, about a 35, 36 degree slope, something like that. So 8-12 slope and 5-foot span. Consult my rafter tables. All right. Again, in the back of the book, the first thing you look for is your span. And in these charts here, it's going to tell you your building width or width of building. Another word for span is the width. Come down here to this section where it says 5 feet. All right. I'm doing common rafters, so that's the column that I want to do. And my inch rise is 8 inches and 12 inches a run. So for a 5-foot wide building, 8-12 slope, the line length for my rafter is 3 feet and 1/8 of an inch. So like 36 and 1/8 inches. That's my line length. So I know that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here on my square. So again, using the square here, you want to put your pivot point out to the end as much as you can, out this way. Now sometimes you're going to have plenty of excess. Other times you're not going to have as much excess. So in our case here, we're going to push this a little farther. And there is a way that you can cheat an extra 3/4 of an inch if you need to. I'll talk about that in a little while here. So what I'm doing now, again, remember in these last videos I was talking to you guys, do not worry about this for this step, the outer edge of your speed square. This one is not the information you need. You need the bottom of this slot right here. Down here, it's going to say common. All right, that's for your common rafters. Okay, and it'll go out, starts at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, you find 8 on the bottom of this slide, not the top. The top is for hip and valves. Bottom here, and that is going to, I'm going to put my pivot point in place. I'm going to rotate out until I hit an 8. When I'm there, draw myself a nice cut. That's going to be my plumb cut. All right. Now, my measurement was 36 and 1/8 inches. Now, some people will go ahead and take off half the thickness of the ridge board, which I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. They'll take that off, they'll cut it, and then they'll measure. But you can't really do that unless you know little things, because there's some things different. Never mind. Forget I just said that. What you're going to do, stretch your tape out, lock it into position, be a little bit beyond whatever your measurement is. Ours is 36 inches. I put it out of there at like 40-something inches. Hold it back to your edge of your mark. Come down here, 36 and 1/8 of an inch. Right? Now I'm going to do another 8-12 in the same direction. Remember, I'm not marking back towards each other. I want the same direction. So I'm on here. Here's my 8-12. Hold your square firmly in place so it doesn't shift while you draw. If it shifts while you draw, it's going to mess up your line. There we go there. Oh, by the way, we're also going to have a 12-inch overhang. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So at this point here, we have our plumb cut for our ridge board, and then we have another plumb cut for part of our bird's mouth, which is going to be down here. We're going to have a notch down here. All right. Now to find that notch, again, as I said in the last videos, most of your exterior walls are going to be 2x4 walls, which is it's 3.5 inches wide. Now, in the last video, I was telling you what you can do is find your find your degree equivalent. Like an 812 here, that is equivalent to a 34-degree angle, right? So I'll flip the square over this way, and this is where a lot of people get a little bit confused. They know it's supposed to be 3.5 inches here, but they might not have the square quite right, because you can slide this square up a little bit and it's going to hit that 3.5 inch mark, or you could not have, you can have the angle a little bit low. It's still going to hit that 3.5 inch mark, and you think, oh yeah, I got it. It's not a right angle. It's not 90 degrees there. It needs to be 90 degrees coming off of this line. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 90, subtract out 34. What does that give you? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. What is it? That would be what, 56? Yeah, 56 degrees. So I'm going to hold my square at a 56-degree angle, and then I'm going to slide it up and down the board until that diamond hits where I want, and I can make my mark. Now I know that this, I can check it with my square real quick, and I'm right on 90 degrees. Everything is perfect. That's exactly what I need. So 3.5 inches this way, right? And then 90 degrees in the corner here. So we've got our bird's mouth marked up. We're also going to have a 12-inch overhang. So there's a couple ways you can do this. One way is having a framing square handy. You can just lay it right on your line, mark over, or you have to slide down a little bit, mark over at 12 inches, and then lay your square on here again and work. And another way to do that is to take your tape measure, hold that at roughly 90 degrees, and then mark it, and everything will work. I'm going to use a framing square. It's a little bit more accurate. Okay, 12 inches. All right, now I'm running into a little bit of a problem here because I don't have my 812 doesn't hit on the end of this. What I can do is I can flip over the bottom side and line up an 812. And put my mark. All right, so I actually have my plumb cut, my bird's mouth cut, and my tail cut. So this is here, it's my bird's mouth. This is my tail cut. Did I do that right? Yeah, tail cut right here. But I'm not quite ready to cut yet. There's one more step that we need to do. Oh, I need to ask you a question before we get going too far here. Question number one for our thing is, how do you know where to draw this line? What thing here? What information on the prints is going to tell you what angle this should be? Okay. So question number one: how do you know what angle is this supposed to be? What do you use? Okay. So what we're going to do here at the top of this, if we were just to bring this over and attach up to here, what's actually going to happen is this is the actual length of our rafter, like the actual line length. Or no, excuse me, not actual. This is a theoretical line length here. But if we were to cut this line, what's going to happen when we have our tail cut? It's going to be pushed down 3/4 of an inch, because we're going to have a ridge beam in the middle that this rafter is going to connect to. And if we don't take into the account for the thickness of this, it's going to mess our cuts up. So you want to subtract half the thickness of your ridge beam. Now, in a lot of cases, you're going to have, if you're doing a conventional style roof with 2x6, 2x8 framing, you're going to have a 2x ridge board. Okay? And in that case, what your measurement over is going to be is half of the thickness. And this is 1.5 inches thick. 2 bys are 1.5 inches thick, which 1.5 divided by 2, that's 3/4 of an inch. So take your tape measure, very similar to what we did with the tail cut here. Mark, put it on there, roughly 90 degrees. Mark out 3/4 of an inch. Take your square, line it back up at an 812 angle, slide it down until it hits that mark. Draw another line. Now, I have 2 lines here. I got 2 lines here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out one of my lines. Okay, the theoretical length, I'm going to mark that one out. This one here is the actual line length. That's what I need to cut. So it's the inside one. That's what you cut. All right. So I'm going to cut my plumb cut first, and then I'm going to come in. I'm going to do my bird's mouth, and then I'm going to do my tail cuts. So moving into the cutting portion of this, you always want to make sure you're not going to run over your sawhorses or whatever your support is. So you can slide it down and hang it off the side so that you have enough to pass through. Your plumb cut you're going to do with a circular saw in most cases. Some people will flip over to a miter saw, and you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But circular saw is usually a little bit faster, and it's just a little bit easier and better. All right, so now you're starting off in here. This board might move, and if the board moves and I'm cutting, I got to hold the board down. When I'm holding the board down with one hand and cutting with the other hand, am I 100% safe? No, not really. So what I'm going to do is use my quick grip clamp. All right, now 500 pounds of pressure on here. It's not going to go anywhere. 2 hands on the saw. I got plenty of control here. All right, here we go. All right, so that takes care of my plumb cut. Next is my bird's mouth here. Now, I want to show you something here. Oh, before I want to show you something, I want to ask you question number 2. Here's question number 2: is why do we subtract the 3/4 of an inch, the half the thickness? Why do we do that off of our plumb cut? Why do we move it down half the thickness of a ridge board? Okay, answer that question, and we'll move on there. Okay. All right. So our bird's mouth is in place here, and before I really get too far in there, I do want to show you another method of making these bird's mouths and making them great. I'm going to come a little bit closer so it's easier for you to see. Okay. So let's say here's my. Never mind all these marks up here. Let's say here is my plumb cut. Let's see if you guys can. Hopefully, I'll catch some of this light over here. Here's my plumb cut. I've measured down. Here's my next plumb cut, and my bird's mouth is going to be down here. Okay. And what I was saying before is that some people will just hold their square over here and say, okay, yep, there's 3.5 inches, and they'll draw a line. But what if their 3.5 inches is off track? Like, if I draw a line this way here, is that a right angle? No, it's not a right angle. Nowhere even close. If I draw a line down here, I got 3.5 inches to the edge of my board of the line. but that again is not 90 degrees. Now there's a trick they built into this square, and it's pretty awesome. I'll tell you that. So instead of using the raised edge side, the T side of your square, flip it around. And what you're going to want to do is look at this 45-degree mark on your square. You want that on the bottom side of your board away from your cut line here. And then you're going to notice down here by 80 degrees here, there are two dashed lines. Those two dashed lines, and that's probably hard to see in here. Trying to fix this real fast. Pull the board lights over a little bit closer. That might be a little bit better. Let me pull you guys up. All right. So I'm going to take my 45-degree mark, lay it on the edge of this board here, and these two lines here, two dashed lines. You want to put those right on top of your plumb cut, and then you're going to slide up or down to your 45 degrees. Hits that. Okay, this is 3.5 inches every time. So they actually made their marks on here. These two dashed lines are right at 3.5 inches, and as long as these two dashes are aligned properly over your plumb cut line, and your 45 is on the bottom edge, you're gonna have 3.5 inches. It is gonna be perfect. It's quick. It's easy. It can take a little bit to remember that, and that's okay. But it's a neat method. I want to show y'all that. All right. Bird's mouth cut time here. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this in the middle of my board. I'm going to clamp over on this side so I'm out of my way. Now, one of the things that you want to do when you're cutting with your circular saw, this is one of the rare times where I'm going to say, hey, you've got an 1.5 inch thick board, go ahead and use your 2 3/8 inch setting, because if you have a standard size circular saw, it'll cut to 2 3/8 of an inch deep. Right? The deeper your cut here is, the more forward part of this saw blade that's cutting. If you have it further up, it's going to be more angled of a cut. So go ahead and cut these first two lines full depth. And now some people, and like what I'm going to do, some people like me, we're going to cut all the way up to the corner and then stop and pull out. And we'll switch over here, corner, stop, and pull out. And we'll finish the cut with a jigsaw, a sawzall, or a handsaw. Some people will just go ahead and run past like 3/4 of an inch to an inch on both cuts, and that piece will just fall out. Problem is, your board is just a little bit weaker now. Some people are okay with doing that. I'm personally not. So I'm going to cut both my lines to the corner and stop. Now, this is also one of those times where I say, hey, you might have to retract the blade guard by hand. So use this handy dandy little lever right here and hold it up as you get the cut started. Once you're into the board, inch or two, you should be able to release the blade lever and or the guard lever, and you'll be okay. Yeah. So I cut down, and stop. Look over on the other side here. It's not cut all the way through. This piece is still attached. So what I'm going to have to do is take my jigsaw and I'm going to finish that cut. Again, you want to go just to the corner. Don't go past the corner, just to the corner here. sawhorses are a little bit wobbly. That's why that board jumps some. So you should not have your hands right in the front here and behind the blade. Now, sometimes when you make this cut here, you might have a little extra material, that stuff that you cut off. Your jigsaw might, the blade might bend a little bit. So you might have to go back in here. I got a little bit of stuff in here I need to clean up real quick. All right, I got those all set. Now, at this point in other videos, I've talked about leaving your tails wild and cutting them off later. I have a video that shows you how to do that. I'll put you a link on there a little bit later in this lesson, in this unit. But I'll go ahead and cut this just so that we can see a finished rafter and how everything is going to work when it's all said and done. Got to clamp it. That's what saving time gets you. Saving time cuts off your fingers. Don't save any time, guys. Work smart. Okay. So, plumb cut is up here. Bird's mouth or seat cut is right here. And tail cut is right there. So, let's see how this thing fares against my plates here. So this is just a little mock-up of what this ridge would be like. So I've got top plates here, double top plates, and I've got my ridge board, and I would have studs on the sides. There should be another one over here. You notice this side, this stud is knocked down a little bit. That is so that another top plate can run from here to the end, and studs can go in here. But there would be another one on this side, the same. So, and this will carry the weight down. Everything will go down to the rafter here. So, if we cut this right, and I'm just looking, I should have had this. We're on the other side so you guys could see really well. But if we cut this right, this this plumb cut is going to sit pretty flush with our ridge board, and our seat cut will be flush along the top of our rafter, and it'll be the right length. Everything will be supported properly. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I'm a little bit open at the base of my cut, meaning my cut was a little bit far back like this, and it could have been up, but it's like a 16th of an inch. That's okay. There are some tolerances that you can get away with in this kind of framing. I come down here. That is hard to beat. That's hard to beat right there. So nailing this in, you would have several nails. I like to shoot one in through the top here, and that's going to hold the top of this in place, and then toe nail it in place. This one's only going to be toe nailed with 2 nails on this side, 2 nails on that side, and we're okay here. And then our tail cut goes down, hangs off the side. So this is what it looks like here. That's the way it'll fit in. I like it. I like it. I like it. And obviously, you're going to have more rafters to put in. So what you can do is you can take your rafter that's good. Let's just pretend that this is my good rafter here. I can lay it right on top of another board and then just trace, 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 cut, 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 cut. I'll repeat that process. You have a pattern board. Now, there will come times where, what if your board is, what if it's not what if it's not matching up properly? What if it's off on your plumb cut? What if the seat cut is tilted? What can you do? What if your rafter is too short? What if it's too long? What you can do is on your pattern piece, if your rafter is too short and you need to add length to the next one, you simply go ahead and mark out your bird's mouth. Actually, here, good. Instead of matching right up to the edge of your rafter, slide your rafter back. Slide your pattern board back. So you've got your new board is going to be longer now. And you can just figure out, okay, I need to add 1/4 of an inch in length. So you add 1/4 of an inch, you hold it down 1/4 of an inch, and then you mark your bird's mouth and your tail cut, and your rafter's going to be a little bit longer. If it's too long, if your pattern piece is too long, and you check in several places, just start cutting it down. And again, I've got videos that talks a little bit more in depth there. If your notch cut, your seat cut is not quite right, you can always adjust it. Say like, okay, we're hitting here, but not in the back. Then you can take a little bit off of here and make a different angle for your next cuts. Or if, like, let's say that this is hanging over your top plate and you have a gap back here, you can always shorten up your rafter. Or in some cases, if you need your rafter to be a little bit longer and you've got a bunch of them cut and just a little bit short, you can take a little bit off the side here and that'll slide them up just a hair. So there are lots of options for adjusting rafters, and I'll talk more about those in my videos when I'm on the job site. I'll show you what those are about. But I do have a couple more questions for you. I kind of got ahead of myself and asking these questions. When you make your notch cut here, you start it with a circular saw, but what kinds of saws can you use to finish that cut? Okay, so what are some saws that you can use to finish this cut here? And I think I said it. I think I said the average overhang for your tail cut is a certain number of inches. But I'll just go ahead and tell you, it's 12 inches in most cases. Sometimes you'll get something 6, sometimes you'll get something like 1.5 feet. We did this one house where halfway up the rake it was 1 foot, and then it jutted out another foot, so it was a 2-foot overhang at the top. That's just what they did. But so the average tail cut overhang is going to be 12 inches. Remember, that is not 12 inches from going along the top of your rafter. You don't just measure down 12 inches this way. You measure out 90 degrees from this line, 12 inches, and then you do another plumb line for your tail cut. Okay, so this takes care of framing, cutting rafters. Next video that I'm going to walk you through is installation of rafters. So I'll be working on my building right outside here, or the little project building right outside, and I'm going to put rafters up. I'm going to have, I'll talk about putting in ridge plates or ridge boards and installing rafters as they go, just all the common rafters. And then we might do another video on fly rafters. there's a lot of information here, and we're getting close to the end of the semester, so I don't know exactly. Like we'll just see what all we can cover. I would love to get a lot of it. I'd love to put a roof on this little thing out here, but we'll see how far we get and how detailed I can get with this stuff. Again, because if you can come out of high school knowing or being very familiar with roof framing, it'll look really good on some resumes and some job interviews. All right, I'm gonna let you go. So take a photo of your work, submit it on Canvas, and we'll talk to you guys soon. All right, later.